and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm participating in the Something Old, Something New YouTube hop where we use something old in our stash and combine it with a newer item in our stash or something we just got recently. I took mixed media paper and used my Lawn Fawn stitch rectangle dies to cut out 2 card panels that are A2 size. And then I'm going over it with my Distress Mica Stain. And these are my new items. I just got these colors recently. So the first one is called Fallen Acorn. And then I'm using Flickering Candle and Jack-o'-lantern. And I keep going back and forth till I get the right amount of all the colors that I want on my card panels. Then I take a towel and blot up the excess. I've decided this is my new favorite way to make backgrounds because it's so much quicker than doing ink blending and they are shiny and sparkly and it really didn't take too long to dry. You can also use stencils with them, which I haven't tried yet, but that'll have to be another project in the future. I'm using my stitched rectangle die to cut out a white panel to go at the bottom of the card. Sometimes when I use my magic mat, it doesn't cut all the way through, so I just use a pair of scissors to cut the paper. Then I'm using a Hillside border die to cut the top of the panel, the one that doesn't have the stitching, because I want it to have a hill on the top. And also I have this gold glitter paper that I want to add as an accent, so I'm going to cut them both at the same time so that I can have the same hill. This die cut through both the gold paper and the white paper. But unfortunately, I moved the glitter paper up too far, so you can see it's too narrow on one side to use it, so I have to recut it. I cut the panels for the second card off screen, although that time I ended up cutting the gold and the white paper separately, so I wouldn't end up making it too small again. I'm using my stamping platform to stamp my sentiments, so on the hill, I'm doing the sentiment Jump for Joy, and I'm using Stampin' Up! Rose red color for the one because I'm making these for my preschool students, and the one student said his favorite color was yellow, orange, and red. So I thought, perfect, I'll make a fall themed card for him. And then since I was doing that, I'd make it for the other kid too, since it's easier just to make the same card twice than making 2 separate ones. And he said his favorite color was gold, so I'm stamping the same thing for him, but in gold. When I first envisioned the card, I thought it would be good to have a white hill for the bottom part, so that way it contrasts a lot with the very colorful background. And also I thought it would look kind of elegant. But I wanted to do some embossing just to jazz it up and give some texture. I didn't have any embossing folders with leaves, but I found this animal track one, which I decided worked out really well because it's the ground and it's kind of in the woods, so that made sense. I kind of fiddle with it a bit, trying to figure out where's the best place to put it to get more animal prints, because this embossing folder doesn't have a lot of coverage. And I wanted to make sure I got the deer prints because that said forest to me the most. I believe my camera shut off while I was doing the embossing, but I just went ahead and embossed the second one the same way I did the first one, and I don't know if you can see that I did that on screen. In any case, I'm now ready to stamp the inside of my card, which will be easier because it has more paper for my magnets to hold. And I'm just using stamps from my Jump for Joy stamp set to stamp the inside. I'm using the sentiment that says, "It's your birthday," and then I use some leaves as well as the hedgehog to decorate the inside. And then for the one card, I used the red again, and then for the other card, I used the gold again. To add a little bit of color, I go around the edge of the one hill with Barn Door Distress ink, and then I go around the other with the gold ink using my Tim Holtz blending tool. I'll put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links, they don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that helps support my channel. Of course, a lot of these products are older, so they may no longer be available. Now that I have all my elements ready, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the card. So to start with, I'm gluing the gold paper onto the back of my Hillside border, and then I glue that onto my card panel. I stamped and colored all my images off screen, and the stump came from the Lawn Fawn Mama Me stamp set, and all the other images come from the Jump for Joy stamp set. And I just used Copic friendly paper and colored all my images with Copics. I want to make the card into a slider card, so I'm positioning all my larger elements so I can see where they will line up, and I want to make it so that the fox jumps from the stump to the leaf pile. So I'm using a die from Lawn Fawn's Slide On Over, and I just line that up and tape it on, and then I run that panel through my die cutting machine. I place my card panel on top of my card so that I can use that to line up this piece that was cut out when I made my slider mechanism, and then I just use my Nouveau Deluxe glue to glue that in place. In order to get my fox to slide, I position them where I want, and then I flip it over and I add a foam dot around one, and then also use a penny. And so that's how you normally do it. But as it went along, it turned out that foam dot was too big, so I tried cutting it down, but it also wasn't staying adhered to the penny. It wasn't strong enough. So then I tried adding some glue, but that didn't dry fast enough. Although Nouveau Deluxe glue usually dries pretty fast, didn't seem to still adhere to the penny. So then I ended up using some foam that I had double-sided tape on. I have Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided tape on it, so I just cut a small piece of that. So even though they a lot of times show you using a foam dot, it doesn't have to be. I just cut a small rectangle. And then also, if you find that your foam is sticking to the sides of the card, you can use a powder tool so that it doesn't stick. In order to get a slider mechanism to work, you need to prop it up, so most people use foam tape. Sometimes I use fun foam and then put double-sided tape on both sides, and I have a lot of scraps from that. So I'm just using my scraps and putting it around my card just to build it up. You just want to make sure that your penny can move, so that way when you attach it to your card, that your mechanism will still move. And this is also when I decided that that glue was not going to hold the foam to the penny, so I cut a little piece of my scrap fun foam with the Elizabeth Craft Designs and used that on the penny, and that seemed to hold. At least it didn't fall off at any time during the filming process or when I played with it to make sure it was working. At one point, I removed some of the foam that I already put on the card because it was thinner than the rest. It looked like I had run it through a die cutting machine, so it had gotten a little squished. Then I removed the backing from all the double-sided tape and adhere it to the front of my card. And I used that brown slider mechanism that we put on the front of the card to line it up. Although I still don't get it quite lined up, and this is the hardest part I usually have, is I'm not really good at getting things on straight. It didn't seem like I was going to be able to get the card panel off my card to straighten it without ripping something, so my solution was to get a Copic marker, which I used a Y15 and colored in the white areas on that slider so it wouldn't be so noticeable. Then I start adhering all my images down with my Nouveau Deluxe glue. I just make sure that I get the stump and the leaves in a place where it looks like the squirrel is jumping from the log to the leaf pile. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of a YouTube hop, so if you'd like to get some more inspiration of combining newer products with older products or whatever you might have in your stash, please hop along. We'll have a link to the playlist at the end of this video as well as in the description below. And that way you can check out everyone's video who is participating, and you can also check out videos from last month's hop. This hop takes place the first Saturday of every month and will have a different theme each month. So this month's theme is fall and Halloween. So if you hop along, you'll get some fall and Halloween inspiration. And also, I know you're going to get a lot of great ideas. I know last month there were so many different styles of card making and different techniques. I'm sure you'll have different things that you can learn and ideas for your card making. If you have a YouTube channel and would like to join us on the hops, we have a Facebook group and it's called Card Making YouTubers. Just join that and we'll have information about each monthly hop, the themes, as well as the links to the playlist so you can add your videos. My camera shut off, so I used that opportunity to zoom in so that you could see the card better as I was gluing on all the items since I wasn't really moving the card around anymore. I have finished assembling the gold card off screen since I pretty much did it the same way, although on that one I did get my card panel to line up so that I didn't have any white space to color in. I could have stopped here because we do have plenty of sparkle, but I decided to go ahead and splatter on some liquid gold paper splatter watercolor from Picket Fence. I'm just using my fan brush to do that. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. Thank you and have a wonderful day.